Welcome to No Nonsense Psychiatry, the podcast that cuts through the noise and the confusion surrounding mental health. My name is Mark and I'm your host, and my goal is to give you the clear, practical information you need to understand your own well-being. No jargon, no fluff, just honest, helpful tools to help you on your journey. Let's dive in.
No nonsense.
Welcome back to No Nonsense Psychiatry, the podcast where we distill complex ideas into clear, actionable mental health strategies. I'm your host Mark, and this is episode 89, A Change is as Good as a Rest. It's an old idiom we hear all the time, but what if this simple phrase holds the key to battling chronic fatigue, burnout, and existential dread of routine? We often think of reset as lying down, stopping or sleeping, but have you ever felt exhausted after a long weekend doing nothing? You understand the core problem. Mental fatigue is often caused by monotony, repetition, not just physical effort. This common saying, a change is as good as a rest, suggests the true antidote to burnout is not simply stopping work, but rather switching to an activity that stimulates different muscles, different senses, and different parts of your brain. So instead of a literal rest, you get a renewal through active change. Like leaving a complex financial report to spend 30 minutes gardening. Today we're going to be diving in deep into the psychology of variety, and we'll explore how this idea has been championed by thinkers across the century, from Aristotle, who argued that the true restorative leisure is actually a meaningful activity, to the existentialists like Camus and Sartre, who saw breaking routine as a vital way to combat existential anxiety and assert our freedom. And even to Karl Marx, who viewed creative change as a necessary way for us to reclaim our humanity from the soul-crushing nature of repetitive, alienated labour. And finally, we'll give you 3 practical strategies to implement this principle immediately, showing how to schedule activity breaks in your workday, use change to defeat decision fatigue, and revitalise your long-term hobbies and relationships. So stick with us as we unpack the profound power of simply doing something different on No Nonsense Psychiatry. A change is as good as a rest is a common saying that means taking a break from your usual work routine by doing something completely different is just as refreshing and restorative as stopping work altogether. It suggests that mental and physical fatigue often come from monotony and routine and not just sheer effort. So the problem is that when you feel tired, bored or stressed, it's often because you're doing the same thing for too long, i.e. the same job, the same chores, the same study schedule, and this creates mental fatigue. So instead of lying down and sleeping, a literal rest, you should switch to an activity that uses different muscles and requires a different type of thought or engages different senses. And the result is that this new activity is stimulating enough to distract you from the previous routine, making you feel revitalised and prepared to return to the original task with renewed energy and perspective. So if you've been working on a complex financial report for hours, switching to gardening or painting provides change that allows the cognitive part of the brain to rest. It's essentially an argument for variety as a cure for burnout. So many philosophers have explored the idea relating to the concept that a change is as good as a rest, and primarily through the lenses of routine, boredom, meaningful labour and leisure. So here are some key philosophical viewpoints that align with or provide commentary on this phrase. Aristotle, the necessity of leisure. So Aristotle is in his ethics argued that the highest good for humans is contemplation, the exercise of reason, and this requires a specific kind of leisure. For Aristotle, true leisure wasn't mere rest or amusement. It was time spent in valuable reflective activity, which is the highest kind of change from a necessary labour. So connection to the idiom, he would agree that simply stopping work isn't enough. The true restoration comes from shifting your focus to a higher meaningful activity, and a productive mental engaging change is far better than a passive recuperation. Existentialism, the weight of routine. So 20th century existentialist philosophers focus heavy on the experience of boredom and the feeling of meaninglessness that results from rigid, repetitive routines. Philosophers like Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre saw the monotony of modern life as a source of existential anxiety, and the restlessness routine makes life feel more mechanical, stripping away any sense of freedom and authenticity. So connection is that they would strongly advocate for change, not just as a rest, but as a necessary reassertion of one's freedom and identity. So breaking that routine with conscious, deliberate choice, a change, is a way to combat the absurdity of existence and regain psychological well-being. Karl Marx, the problem of alienated labour, while primarily an economic theorist, Karl Marx's critique of alienated labour is in capitalist society speaks directly to why people need to change. So Marx argued that industrial work separates the worker from the product of their labour, the process of production, their fellow workers, and their own human nature, which is to be creative. And this work is exhausted and dehumanizing. My word. So the connection to the phrase is the daily repetitive grind is not just tiring, it's soul crushing. Therefore, a change is not merely a rest, but necessarily opportunity for individual to engage in unalienated, creative, purposeful activities like a hobby or personal project, to reclaim their humanity, which makes the change more restorative than simply stopping the alienated work. So here are 3 strategies that you can utilize the phrase. A change is as good as a rest in the different aspects of life. So scheduling active breaks at work. So instead of just stepping away from work, a passive rest, consciously choose a different stimulating activity, an active change, to combat that mental fatigue. So implement the change of task rule during the periods of extended focus or burnout. When you feel your productivity dropping on a mentally demanding project like coding, writing a report, or study complex material, invoke the phrase. Switch from the taxing cognitive task to a completely different, ideally physical or mechanical task for 15 to 30 minutes. So move from writing a budget report to organising your physical desk space, doing a set of bodyweight exercises, or tackling a simple manual chore like washing dishes. So the shift engages a different neural pathway or muscle, offering a genuine mental break without the loss of momentum that is the true nap or passive screen time might cause. You get restorative through alternative action. So combating decision fatigue. So decision fatigue happens when continuous small decisions drain your mental energy, making you less effective at high stakes choices. So apply the concept to simplify or delegate low stakes routines to free up mental energy for high priority items. So use the phrase as a guiding principle when structuring your daily life to optimize cognitive load. So if you are mentally exhausted from work, apply a change to your life routine by automating or simply low-value decisions. So adopt a simple fixed wardrobe for the work week, eliminating clothing decisions, meal prep every Sunday, eliminating food decisions, or strictly schedule exercise time, eliminating the should I go debate. So this change in routine acts as a rest for the brain's executive function, preserving your cognitive bandwidth for the more important tasks that require deep thought. So you revitalizing long-term hobbies and relationships. So monotony doesn't just affect your work, it can dull your enjoyment of long-term commitments, including personal projects and relationships. So introduce a planned, structured variation into established activities or relationships to keep them fresh and engaging. Use the phrase to justify stepping away from a stagnant hobby or planning an unusual activity with a loved one. So if your weekly date night feels dull and you've hit a creative block in a long-term project, writing a novel, don't abandon it, apply a change. If you usually dine out, plan a night where you both take a beginner's pottery class, a changing of an activity. If you're stuck on your novel, switch to writing a short poetry for a week, a change of format. So the intention switches between the excitement of novelty, invigorating your enjoyment and commitment to the original activity when you return. So there you go, and that's our episode on the power of variety. So we've got that from a simple idiom, a change is as good as a rest, to a profound psychological and philosophical concept. The key takeaway is that the rest is not always inactivity, often it's redirection. We learn that your fatigue might not be cured by more sleep, but by conscious shifts of focus. So whether you follow Aristotle's call for a meaningful leisure, heed the existential urge to break free from the soul-crushing routine, or simply implementing a strategy of active breaks in your workday, the goal remains the same: to engage at different parts of yourself and return to the main task with renewed vigour. Remember the 3 strategies we spoke about: scheduling activity, scheduling regular breaks, switch from mental strain to physical activity, i.e. coding to organising, combating decision fatigue, simplify low-stake life decisions, i.e. meal prep, to rest your executive function, and revitalise relationships and hobbies, introduce novel changes to keep long-term commitments exciting and fresh. By intentionally managing your routine and embracing change, you are not procrastinating. You are practicing sophisticated, no-nonsense psychology to optimise your well-being and productivity. Thank you for joining me on for episode 89 of No Nonsense Psychiatry. Until the next time, be mindful of your routines, embrace the power of change, and take good care of your mind.
Before we go, if you found the podcast helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. You can also support the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It only takes a moment, but it makes a big difference in helping us reach more people. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode of No Nonsense Psychiatry.
No nonsense.